From frozen Arctic railways to billion-dollar glass towers piercing the Moscow skyline, Russia isn't just building, it's reshaping its entire future with some of the most extreme mega projects on the planet. But before we unpack the jaw-dropping truth behind these engineering behemoths, hit that subscribe button because what you're about to see isn't just about concrete and steel, and the final project on this list might completely change how you see Russia's future on the world stage. Imagine gliding across the heart of Russia at a staggering 400 kilometers per hour. Snow-capped birch forests blur into a white and green haze. The distance from Moscow to Kazan, once a grueling 12-hour journey, is now covered in just 3.5 hours. This is not science fiction. This is the Moscow-Kazan high-speed railway, Russia's ambitious leap into the future of ultra-fast transit. The idea was born of necessity, but also of national pride. Originally scheduled to open in 2023, the high-speed link was designed not merely as infrastructure, but as a monument to Russia's place in the modern world. However, it didn't take long for reality to slam on the brakes. The projected cost? An eye-watering 17 trillion rubles, roughly $220 billion. To put that in perspective, it's more than the entire GDP of several European countries combined. The logistics were no less daunting. Routes had to be redrawn, environmental clearances stalled, and regional disputes over land rights ignited political tempests. By 2021, the project had stalled entirely. Critics branded it a vanity project, grand in vision, reckless in execution, and disconnected from Russia's economic realities. The dream, it seemed, had been shelved indefinitely. But then, something unexpected happened. Help arrived from the east. With funding, engineering expertise, and the backing of its own high-speed railway legacy, Chinese partners revived the venture not just as a route between cities, but as the first segment in a proposed 7,000-kilometer Moscow to Beijing super rail, a land bridge of steel and speed between Europe and Asia. But Russia's terrain doesn't make things easy. The route cuts through zones plagued by permafrost, unstable soil, and bitter winters that crack even the toughest infrastructure. Engineers must invent new systems just to keep tracks from buckling in the cold. The human challenge is matched only by the technical. If completed, this won't just be one of the world's fastest railways, it'll be one of the most geopolitically strategic transportation corridors in modern history. A physical link uniting two global powers while sidestepping Western control points entirely. Now, push even further north. Imagine a railway cutting through the Arctic Circle, 700 kilometers of frozen steel designed to transform icy wastelands into Russia's next economic frontier. At first glance, the name might feel sterile, almost bureaucratic, but behind it lies something far more ambitious. This railway is not just about transport, it's a high-stakes play in the evolving chessboard of Arctic geopolitics, a cold, calculated move to dominate the future of global energy. The route cuts across the Yamal Peninsula, one of the most resource-rich stretches of land on the planet. Beneath its frozen surface lies an estimated 90% of Russia's natural gas reserves and nearly a quarter of the world's total supply. These aren't just numbers on a chart. They're the lifeblood of the future global energy market, and in a world increasingly defined by energy security, access, and control, this railway could tilt the balance. But why now? Because the Arctic, once locked away by centuries of ice, is changing. Climate change is melting permafrost and opening sea lanes. The Northern Sea Route, a once mythical maritime path that hugs Russia's Arctic coastline, is becoming navigable for longer stretches each year. In just a few decades, this could rival the Suez Canal as a primary artery of global trade, but it's worthless without the infrastructure to feed it. That's where the Northern Latitudinal Railway steps in, a missing link between Siberia's landlocked gas fields and this emerging ocean highway. Co-developed by Russian Railways and energy giant Gazprom, the project is staggering in scale and complexity. The terrain is punishing. Temperatures plummet to -50°C, snowdrifts rise stories high, and the ground itself can shift as thawing permafrost buckles and sinks. There are no roads, no existing corridors, just raw nature resisting intrusion. Yet, against all odds, steel is being laid. Gigantic bridges are being erected over frozen rivers like the Ob and Nadim. Entire towns have been built from scratch to house thousands of workers. Specialized trains with reinforced wheels and heated cargo compartments are being designed to handle the brutal environment. Every inch of this railway is an engineering battle, one that Russia seems determined to win. Once completed, it will carry over 23.9 million tons of cargo annually, not just gas, but also coal, minerals, timber, and military equipment. It will connect the western section of the Northern Sea route to Russia's heartland, threading through cities like Nadim, Salikard, and Novi Urengoy. Places that once felt like remote outposts but are now poised to become vital junctions in a new Arctic economy. But in reality, it's the backbone of Russia's Arctic strategy, a steel artery pumping life into Moscow's vision of polar supremacy. It's designed to reshape global trade routes, fortify Russia's energy hegemony, and militarize the Arctic with chilling efficiency. Make no mistake, this railway isn't just about moving goods, it's about redefining the map, not in ink, but in steel. And as the world warms and nations race to claim the Arctic's untapped riches, the Northern Latitudinal Railway may prove to be Russia's most strategic move yet, a silent, frozen march toward dominance, inch by inch, rail by rail. Let's pull back the lens and take in the sweeping skyline of Moscow, a metropolis forged in imperial ambition and modern steel, yet historically shackled by one notorious enemy: traffic. The kind of gridlock that doesn't just slow down commuters, it chokes supply chains, delays commerce, and costs the economy billions. For decades, the Russian capital has been a cautionary tale in urban congestion, but that's about to change radically. Enter the CCAD, the Central Ring Road, a 525-kilometer long arterial loop slicing through the Moscow region like a precision scalpel. It's not just a bypass, it's an infrastructure awakening. Imagine 13 major federal highways, Russia's logistical lifelines, pouring into this one mega circuit like veins converging at a heart of a continent. This isn't a road, it's a circulatory system for an entire economy. But CCAD isn't just about easing your morning commute, it's continental redirection in motion. This ring road is the spine of a far grander vision, a pan-Eurasian logistics superhighway. A corridor stretching from the icy docks of the Baltic Sea to the mineral-rich depths of the Ural Mountains. A corridor that redefines how goods move across one of the largest landmasses on Earth. Why now? Why this road? Because Russia is pivoting, strategically, economically, geopolitically. The CCAD allows freight to bypass the choked arteries of inner Moscow, slashing delivery times, reducing fuel costs, and minimizing wear on aging urban roads. It's a quiet revolution with high decibel effects. The $1.37 billion investment, steep yet strikingly modest for its scale, is already paying dividends in restructured trade routes and regional development. Entire logistics hubs, industrial zones, and smart city clusters are springing up along its path like satellites around a newly born planet. But perhaps the most underreported truth? When fully complete, the CCAD could reprogram the entire European side of Russia's economy. Think of it not as a road, but as a platform. For digital logistics, for driverless freight, for transcontinental commerce that no longer relies on antiquated rail bottlenecks or Cold War-era trade routes. It's a future-proof artery carved into the present. And while the world watches mega projects in the Middle East and Asia with jaws dropped, Russia may have quietly built one of the most consequential infrastructure projects in modern Europe right under everyone's nose. Picture a 3,000-kilometer metallic serpent slithering beneath frozen tundra across rugged mountains, under roaring rivers, and over earthquake-prone landscapes, all to carry one thing: energy. This is the power of Siberia, a symbol of engineering prowess and geopolitical recalibration, connecting Russia's remote gas fields to the engine room of the East, China. Commissioned in 2019 after nearly a decade of negotiations, planning, and construction, the pipeline now channels Siberian natural gas directly into the industrial arteries of northeastern China. It's a lifeline, not just for China's insatiable appetite for cleaner fuel, but for Russia's economic survival in the aftermath of its political rift with the West. The $400 billion deal between Gazprom and China National Petroleum Corporation wasn't merely an energy agreement. It was a signal flare in global diplomacy. With sanctions piling up from Europe and the United States after the annexation of Crimea and the war in Ukraine, Russia turned to the east, not just as an alternative market, but as a strategic ally. Phase 1 of Power of Siberia stretches from the Chelyabinskoye field in Yakutia to the Chinese border near Blagovichensk. Phase 2, already under construction, will draw from the massive Kovitka field in Irkutsk. Together, they aim to supply over 38 billion cubic meters of gas annually by the end of the decade. But here lies the truth behind the skeptical. Even both phases at full capacity won't make up for the vast energy market Russia once enjoyed in Europe. The Power of Siberia is not a one-for-one substitution. It's a survival strategy born out of necessity, not abundance. And yet, this pivot is about more than cubic meters and export revenue. It's about leverage. It's about diplomatic alignment in an increasingly multipolar world. In a landscape where Western alliances once dominated, Russia and China are building their own energy symbiosis, a partnership sealed not with treaties but with pipelines. Shift your gaze northward to the Gidon Peninsula, where the Earth itself resists human settlement. Blasted by -50°C blizzards, cloaked in darkness half the year, this is no place for the faint-hearted or the unambitious. And yet, in this frozen realm of ice and silence, Russia is building one of the boldest energy projects on the planet, Arctic LNG-2. With a price tag north of $23 billion, this liquefied natural gas megaproject is more than an industrial facility, it's a declaration of intent. Spearheaded by Novatek, Arctic LNG-2 is designed to produce 19.8 million tons of LNG per year thanks to 3 massive production trains mounted on gravity-based structures. It's not just about extraction, it's about transformation. Gas drawn from the Utrony field will be cooled, condensed, and shipped via a custom-built Arctic port using ice-class LNG tankers that can sail year-round through the northern sea route. But here's where it gets global. This is not a solo Russian gamble, it's a multilateral chess move. China's CNPC and CNOOC, France's Total Energies, and Japan's Mitsui and JOGMEC are all stakeholders. Each is betting on LNG as the future of transitional energy, cleaner than coal, more flexible than oil, and geopolitically potent. In a world tilting towards decarbonization, LNG has become a new geopolitical weapon. And Arctic LNG-2 is Russia's icy sword in that battle. While Western nations scramble to replace fossil fuels with renewables, countries across Asia remain energy hungry, and Russia, with its vast reserves and Arctic ambition, is positioning itself as their go-to supplier. The cold is no longer a barrier, it's an advantage. Welcome to the Moscow International Business Center, or simply Moscow City. A skyline that looks more like a Marvel movie set than a former Soviet capital. A bold, neon-soaked contradiction. Futuristic towers rising from a city long steeped in imperial history and Cold War paranoia. Skyscrapers like the Federation Tower, Europe's tallest until recently, the shimmering Mercury City, and the twisting OKO stand as architectural statements. Russia wants in. In on global finance, in on digital capital, and in on the elite club of world cities. But Moscow City wasn't born out of a boom, it rose from rubble. The original concept dates back to 1992, a time of chaos and collapse in the wake of the Soviet Union's dissolution. Early development was marred by underfunding, real estate bubbles, and corruption. For years, the project was mocked as an extravagant fantasy. And then something changed. Oil prices surged. The Kremlin regained control. Stake-backed developers were brought in. The skyline began to rise, not just physically, but symbolically. Today, Moscow City is a manifestation of resilience, ambition, and curated image making. It's not just about banks and offices, it's about global identity. A rebranding of Moscow from Soviet stronghold to world stage contender. Think Wall Street, but under snowfall. Think Canary Wharf, wrapped in fur. But here's the paradox. For all its steel and swagger, Moscow City remains a curated illusion. Beneath the reflective glass lies a volatile economy burdened by sanctions and dependent on hydrocarbons. Yet the skyline tells a different story, a story of vision, defiance, and the will to be seen. In a city renowned for its neoclassical charm and imperial past, a new spire rises from the earth like a shard of the future. Welcome to the Latka Center. Towering at 462 meters, it is not only the tallest building in Russia, but in all of Europe. This isn't just a skyscraper, it's a statement. A shimmering, spiraling declaration that Russia will not be left behind in the global race for the skyline. Its twisted flame-like silhouette, designed by the architectural firm RMJM and later refined by Gore Project and Samsung C&T, wasn't created just to look futuristic. It embodies duality, fire and ice, energy and elegance, motion and stability. Fittingly, it's the new headquarters of Gazprom, Russia's energy titan. But the Latka Center doesn't just represent height, it represents power. To even build something this bold on the marshy shores of the Gulf of Finland, engineers had to break records. They poured the largest continuous concrete foundation ever attempted, a staggering 19,624 cubic meters of concrete in one single uninterrupted 49-hour session. That foundation isn't just buried in the earth, it's fused into history. But the genius doesn't stop at its base. The facade is clad in double-curved glass panels, each engineered to respond dynamically to St. Petersburg's extreme seasonal light shifts. In the winter, it insulates. In the summer, it filters. It's not a static structure, it's a living skin adapting with the rhythm of the Earth's orbit. Inside, it's a city in the sky. Offices, restaurants, observation decks, and even an amphitheater. An entire ecosystem humming within steel and glass. But perhaps the Laka Center's greatest achievement isn't technical at all, it's symbolic. In a world where architecture often follows Western trends, the Laka Center stands tall as Russia's own vision of modernity, bold, unapologetic, and unmistakably Russian. Now let's pivot from vertical reach to orbital ambition. Thousands of kilometers east, tucked deep in the Amur Oblast, near the icy curve of the Chinese border, sits a facility that few outside Russia have seen, but everyone in the global aerospace community is watching closely. This is Vostochny Cosmodrome, a 700 square kilometer complex carved out of forest and frost. It's not just a launch site, it's a geopolitical move, a rebuke of dependence, a moonshot toward independence. Since the breakup of the Soviet Union, Russia's space dreams have been launched from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, leased at a high price and wrapped in diplomatic constraints. But Vostochny changes that. It's the first Russian spaceport on Russian soil built from scratch in the post-Soviet era. Construction began in 2011, and while the road here has been anything but smooth, riddled with delays, cost overruns, and corruption scandals, the mission is too vital to abandon. Because for Russia, space isn't just about science, it's about sovereignty. The first launch in 2016 was modest, a satellite-laden Soyuz 2.1A rocket, but it sent a loud signal. We're no longer reliant on rented ground. In the years ahead, Vostochny is set to host manned missions, satellite constellations, and eventually, lunar probes. Each countdown is a drumbeat toward a future where no foreign lease can dictate the bounds of Russia's exploration. Even the architecture of the Cosmodrome reflects this ethos. Sleek horizontal lines, vast runways, and control centers equipped with cutting-edge AI, a fusion of Soviet legacy and next-gen capability. The base sits silent most days, but when it comes alive, it roars with a single unified message. We launch from our soil, we ascend on our terms. And when you think about it, that's the highest form of power: orbital autonomy. In the 21st century, it's not just boots on the ground that matter. It's who controls the skies and who dares to reach beyond them. So what do all these projects really mean? From high-speed rails to frozen pipelines, from mega towers to mega spaceports, Russia is rewriting its playbook for survival, growth, and power in the 21st century. But the real question is, will these mega projects make Russia unstoppable? Or are they moonshots in a country racing against time, pressure, and politics? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching this video with us, and catch you in the next one.